Assalamu alaikum. I am Rahaifa Alamada, members of Group 3, and my assigned topic is about locale of Muslims. Where do usually Muslims can be seen, or where do usually Muslims live among the countries? So let us proceed to the first slides. So, Islam was originated the Arabian Peninsula between CE 610 and 613, and at a time when the region was torn by rivalries and warfare between the nomadic communities and those living cities. So Islam is originated in Arabian Peninsula. So what is Arabian Peninsula? That was the Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Kuwait, Oman, Qatar, Yemen, and now United Arab Emirates. Between noong CE 610 and 613. So ang Islam daw is originated siya dyan sa mga nasabing countries, that is the Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, and among others. So Muhammad was 40 years old nung una niyang na-receive ang kanyang revelations, and in that time when he received his revelations, he began to teach to his families and friends the beliefs that were revealed to him. And in time, many in Mecca converted to Islam. So monastic religions that was founded by Prophet Muhammad between CE 610 and 613, so what is now called Saudi Arabia. So Muhammad earned the anger of the Arab tribal leaders by publicly criticizing their corruptions, cruelty, and indifference. So by CE 622, the hostility towards Muhammad in Mecca ang nag-force sa kanya to move in the city of Yathrib, o yung tinatawag natin ngayon na Medina, where he became a leading figures by reconciling the two tribal factions, at siya din yung nag-unite sa kanila under the banner of Islam. So, within 2 years of war, Muhammad and his followers in Medina were at wars with the tribal leaders in Mecca, and after a year of war interrupted by a brief and ultimately suspended truce. So in the decades following the death of Muhammad in CE 632, where the Muslims armies and merchants under the Umayyad dynasty, na kung saan dala-dala nila ang Islam throughout Southeast Asia and Near East, eastward into what is now Pakistan in India, and west across North Africa and Iberia, what is now the modern day called Spain and Portugal. And let us move on to the next slide. So Mecca, or the city of Saudi Arabia. So Mecca in the desert valley in western Saudi Arabia is Islam's holiest city, as it is the birthplace of Prophet Muhammad and the faith itself. So alam naman natin kung ano ang Mecca at kung ano yung matatagpuan dito. So only Muslims are allowed in the city, with millions arriving for the annual Hajj, or tinatawag nating pilgrimage. Dating from the 7th century, the central Masjid al-Haram, sacred mosque, surround the Kaaba, the cloth-covered cubic structures that Islam's most sacred shrine. So dito sa Makkah matatagpuan ang tinatawag nating Kaaba. Kaaba is the most sacred site of Muslims. It was built by Abraham at ang kanyang anak na si Ismail as the house of monastic worships, where the Muslims walk around in the Kaaba in counterclockwise directions, o yung tinatawag nating the ritual of tawaf. And now, the Medina, or it is a city of western Saudi Arabia, in the city center of the vast Al-Masjid al-Nabawi, or the Prophet Mosque, is a major Islamic pilgrimage. It's a striking green that rises above the tombs of the Prophet Muhammad and the early Islamic leaders Abu Bakr and Umar. the Masjid al-Qiblatin, the proposed mosque that was contains the tombs of Muhammad and is considered one of the holiest places of Islam. And now let us proceed to the next slides. So the geography of Muslim salt, or kung ito yung kung saan matatagpuan ng mga iba't ibang mga Muslims. So from the earliest period, the Darul Islam has encompasses a diverse territory. From the rocky valley of Makkah and the oasis of Arabian Hijaz and the lava fields of Medina, where the first Muslim communities arose, the steppes of Uzbekistan and the tropics of Singapore and the jungles of Africa where Islam spread. Dito sa Darul Islam, natagpuan yung first Muslim communities that was arose in the Uzbekistan and the tropics of Singapore and the jungles of Africa, na kung saan nag-spread na dito ang Islam. So following the days of Prophet Muhammad, after a 20 years mission during which is the majority of inhabitants of the Arabian Peninsula they embraces Islam, the caliphs or who succeed him presided over the expansions of Muslims territory. So in the beginnings of late 11th century, ang mga Muslim ay began to facing serious challenges on the frontier, resulting in some corrupt constructions of Muslims lands. Kumbaga, in the beginning of 11th century, ang mga Muslim ay nagsimula na, kumbaga nagkaroon na sila ng mga challenges between the Muslims land. So in the 6th century, where the Islam expanded once again, boom na ulit ang Islam. So the Ottoman extended their rule into the Balkans, Greece, and part of Eastern Europe. At the same time, the Mughals extended Islamic rule southern in India. Kumbaga, pumasok na dito yung Ottoman Empire na nag-rule sa Balkans, Greece, and sa parte ng Eastern Europe. From 13th century onward, pumasok ang Islam sa Southeast Asia, especially in Malaysia and Indonesia. Kumbaga, it was introduced by the Muslim merchants from Yemen, the Persian Gulf and India. Kumbaga, these by Muslim merchants from Yemen, Persian Gulf and India, they involved in a long distance trade in the Indian Ocean. Dala-dala nila ang Islam at inintroduce nila ang Islam by the trading. The small colonies of Muslim merchants give rise to religious Muslim populations, so the compromising immigrants and significant Muslim presence developing by the early 1500s. So in the northwestern in southern China, the Mongols settlers who assimilated the Chinese and formed a nucleus around which is a Chinese Muslims community grew. Likewise in sub-Saharan Africa, Islam was spread by the migrations of Muslim merchants, scholars, and immigrants. So in western and southern China, ang mga Muslim settlers that was assimilated to China, so they form around the nucleus kumbaga bumuo sila ng nucleus around which is the China's Muslims. So by the forms of these nucleus, the Chinese Muslims community are finally grow and expanded. Likewise in sub-Saharan Africa, so ang Islam was nag-spread ang Islam with the help of the migrations of Muslims merchants and the scholars and immigrants. So with their help, Islam grow and spread among the countries. So now the Muslims in Europe and America, And 19th century Muslims, refugees, and immigrants forms community in three United States, the France, England, and other European states. So following the world wars and the decolonizations of Muslims lands, the early of 20th century, ang community ng mga Muslims in Western countries are kumbaga lumago at lumaki through the further immigrations and the birth of Muslim citizens in this country. Kumbaga migrate doon sa mga country na yon, kumbaga doon na sila nanirahan. So the birth of Muslim citizens in this country are increased in that states, Europe and America. Now let us proceed to the next slide. After the death of Prophet Muhammad, Muslims split into a two group. Yung tinatawag nating Sunni and Shiite, or yung tinatawag nating Shia. So ang Sunni, where they believe that Muslim leaders should be the persons who knows and sets the examples of the religions. They regard themselves as the traditional, or they regard themselves as the original followers of the Islamic faith. So the great majority of the world Muslims are Sunnis, and at yung mga followers nila, it makes up of 87.90% of the global Muslims populations are Sunnis. So ang majority of Muslims ng Indonesia, Pakistan, Bangladesh, Egypt, Jordan, and Gaza, and Saudi Arabia are all Sunnis. While the Shiite or the Shia, naniniwala sila na the Muslim leader should be a direct descendants of Muhammad. So the majority live in Iran, southern Iraq, Lebanon, Bahrain, Azerbaijan, Peru are all Shiite or Shia. So the main regions of the world with a predominantly Islamic populations na kung saan matatagpuan in Central Asia, entire Middle East, Western Asia, except sa Armenia and Israel, and the North Africa and many countries in West Africa, South Asia, and maritime Southeast Asia. So 50% of countries where the majority of populations is Muslims, and worldwide there are about 30% of countries within the Muslims populations in which more than 90% of inhabitants belong to Islam. So usually the Islamic populations na ay matatagpuan sa Central Asia, Middle East at saka Western Asia, except sa Armenia at Israel. So 50% sa country where the majority ay the majority of Muslim populations, and 30% countries within the populations Muslims, in which are 90% of the inhabitants were all belong to Islam. So now let's proceed to the next slide, which is the Islamic core countries. Kumbaga, yung tradition heartlands of Islam. The first one is Saudi Arabia. So all Saudi Arabian citizens are considered Muslims. Saudi Arabia citizens are about 85 to 90% Sunni, and 10 to 15% are Shia. Yemen, that was estimated by 50% of the populations ng Yemen ay Sunni, and 45% sa kanila ay Shia. So the whole is Shia Islamic political and the armed movements have gained controls of the most of the northern part of Yemen territory. So sa United Arab Emirates, ang lahat ng Emirates ay lahat Muslims. There are about 80% are Sunni and 15% are Shia. Sa Oman naman, there are 56.4% of ng kanilang populations ay lahat Omani citizens, and almost are Muslims. Ibadi, the third branch of Islam, and some, so lahat ng Oman they are Sunni and Shia. Sa Kuwait naman, there are majority naman sa kanila ay lahat Muslim, with an estimated of 60 to 70% ay Sunni at saka 30 to 70% are Shia. So sa Qatar, ang religion nila ay Islam. So the Qataris are all Muslims and their followers of the Sunni Salafi versions of Islam. So there are about 12% of the entire populations are Qatari citizens. While in the Bahrain also, their state of religions is Islam, and about half of their populations are Shia and others are half Sunni. So in Iran, sa Iran naman, they are about ang kanilang official state religion ay Shia Islam. So in Iraq, ang religion din nila ay Islam. So countries with the largest populations, Muslims population, nangunguna dito ang Indonesia, where about 229 million. And the next one is Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, and Nigeria. Egypt, Iran, Turkey, Algeria, Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Ethiopia, Morocco, Uzbekistan, China, Russia, and the last one is Saudi Arabia. That's the end of my report. I hope you understand. Thank you and have a nice day.